Hello students, today we are going to be focusing on web programming using PHP, and our main focus it is going to be on how do we develop a registration form. We shall not talk about validations, those ones will come in our second episodes. The different lectures that we shall be having. Then after this one we shall be having how do we display our registration form or the data which has been captured on our registration form. With website programming using PHP, you need to have the server, you need to have the platforms that you're going to use, and we are going to be focusing on dynamic sites where we design different projects. So when you need to have a server. For us in our session, we are going to be using XAMPP. You need to have installed XAMPP server on your machine, and then after that make sure that you run it. Mine, I configured it already, that it is already running. So what shows that it is running, we see the patch and then MySQL. So MySQL database is already running, and then you need also to focus on the ports. You may find that you already have different servers running. So if you are specifically using XAMPP, then you require to configure it to that specific port so that you are not interrupted when you are working on the app project. So we are going to try and test whether our server is working. You can open any browser that you're using. I've opened my browser, and mine it is using a certain port which is 8080. So automatically this shows that our server is running. You can also try to check the PHP my admin to ensure that your databases are also configured well. So literally right now we want to see whether they are working. Now we can see that everything we have on our system, it is working. The databases that you have already seen here. Always also use MySQL itself, because once it is linked up with XAMPP, it becomes very easy for you to design the tables accordingly. Whatever you prefer to use, you can use it. So it is always preferred that when you are designing any system, you need to start with the database. Sometimes when you start with the database, once you know what are the requirements from your client, then it becomes very easy for you to start designing. So these ones are so much important when we are doing the configurations in our PHP. That is the server, and that is the host, then the username, the password, and then the specific database that you are using. So here I have a password which is root, and you can specify, but right now I'm going to create a database. So I need to open, and then I create a simple database that we are going to use, and our database we are going to call it home. So I've called it home, and then I need to create the tables. I've just right clicked, just this is for those one who are not so much versed with it, and then I'm going to create a registration form. On my form, then I will need to have maybe the gender. of that client. Then after that, I just need to execute, and then I already have my table here. So what I need, it is just to design a form which is going to feed the information in this form. That's what we want to achieve right now. So as I told you that I'm going to be using Dreamweaver, I need to open my Dreamweaver, but depends on the different you can use different platforms for your designing. You can use Notepad++, whatever you prefer. This is a user-friendly platform. So I need to create one file. There are different files that we need to start with. These files, they help us to connect between the database and then MySQL, or sorry, between the database and then the form that you are creating. So we need to create to make the connectivity. So I'm going to create a connectivity, and that means that I'm going to create 3 files. And within those 3 files, one I'm going to call it my config file. So you can have everything into one file. I'm going to just have one file here without a lot of disturbance. So this file, it is helping me to make connection. I'm just making I'm connecting to my database. So I need to make connection between my database. And some of the key things that I need to declare here, it is the host. As I told you, that host is very important, that retry that you are using. And my host here is going to be localhost. If you remember the process that I used to open, then I need to have the user name, and our username according to MySQL, it is root. And then I'll need to have the password. These are just declarations that I'm making. So my password is also root. Then I need to define what database. I'm calling it database name. The database name that I'm using at that particular moment, I called it home, if you remember. So now I've done the configuration, but right now I need to write some few functions to help me open that setup. So I will need to declare I will call it connect, and then I need to write a simple function here, the SQL function, which is going to make a connection. And our simple function, it is called MySQL connect. Under connection, I'll be connecting via the host. Whatever I declared there, it is what I'm going to type here. I need to call my host, comma, I need also to call my username, then comma, I need also to call a password. I need to call my password. Then I need also to call the database name. So now, my dear students and viewers, this is simply how we make the connection. But ideally, right now, whatever we are creating, we need to have one project created on our server. because I'm creating a project, and then I'm going to open my XAMPP, and then I'll access it via htdocs. Then under htdocs you can create any project. Right now I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to give it a project. I'm going to call it KCCA. So that is the project. That what if you're creating a form for KCCA. So I'm going to be saving my things here, and the file that I have just created, I'm going to try and then save it in that file for the KCCA. So this first file that I'm creating, I'm calling it config file.php. Whatever name you can call it, it doesn't matter. So that is my configuration file. I need to create one more file to make a complete connection, and that one more file, you remove everything once you open it, so that it is a global declaration here. So we need to have my other file which is going to close the connection. This file that I'm creating, it is closing. I'm making these comments, closing the connection, because once you open, you need to close the connection of the database. So you just simply write a simple function. That our function, it is just for closing. So close, I need to terminate at the end. What am I closing? I'm closing this connection. I'm closing this connection that I opened. So I just come here, and then you type in that space, and then I'm going to call it close db, just for closing my database for easy recording. So I've created those two files. Now I'm going to create my third file, and that is my registration form. I will remove everything if I want, and then let me split. With the beauty with Dreamweaver, you can design. So I'm going to design a simple form. I start by creating a form. Okay, I'll start by creating a form, and let me first save it. And this form, I'm going to call it index. At least let it be our index page. So I've created it as our index page, and then within this form I'm going to create a table. It is always good to have a table because it simplifies work, as somebody may use the divs and the rest. Let me just create simply like that. I will have like 6 rows. So this is my form. I can try to make it a little bit bigger. Depends on what you prefer to use. Members under properties here, you can make it in center. You can even remove the borders by assigning it to 0. So I will come here, and then I merge them. Then I'm going to just say KCCA registration. Registration form. Here you can give it different CSS parameters, but our main focus, it is on how we achieve whatever we are going to achieve today. You can even give it any given color, depends on what you prefer. Here I'm going to be putting my components here. I need to merge these ones so that it becomes a little bit easier. Let me merge these columns so that I just create it once. So this is my form that I have just created. So here I'm going to have my name. So you go to insert, and then you insert a text under file, insert a text, So without wasting a lot of time, you can even come, copy and paste. Okay, you can come, copy and paste depending on what you are going to be entering. Copy and paste. So here we said that we are going to have the name. Going to have the name, or you can say full name. Then here we are going to have address. Then here we're going to have our city. Then here I'm going to have simply my telephone, and the last one is going to be our gender. So sometimes you may prefer to have these already in a list format, so you can come and then make a simple list instead of always selecting. So if I come here and then I make a list, you can come and then insert those key one. You know that it is always a male and then female, and then press OK. So here I'm give it a name. I want to call it gender. Then telephone number, I want to come and then change it to telephone. Then I need to come here. Even on the cities, you can come and then change the cities, so that and whenever you want them, you just select. I will just come literally now form, create the city, can fill in some few cities. Then we have Mbale, we have Masaka, we can have Jinja. For now, those will be enough. Then even on the address where you come from, you can leave it open, and then you can come give it a name, address. Then on our city, we had to come and then give it something. Give it city. These ones I need to remove them. Then under name here, I will also come and I give it name. So now what is only simply remaining, I try to reduce so that the form looks a little bit organized. Now what is remaining, I will just need to have my button here. I will insert a simple button. In my button I need just a submission button. So I save my work, and when I come here to test, I can simply test. We said we are using, it is called the home. No, it is called KCCA, our project. So our project that we are designing, our registration form, it is here. Right now we can select, but we want to make sure that once we submit, whatever we have submitted has been entered into our system. So that's what we want to see, that whatever you have selected, you can enter it into the system. So we're just going to write a simple PHP code to ensure that whatever we have is captured into our database. So now let us go on to putting our PHP code. The cursor can come to the code. Right now we are on the code. We're going to write a simple code to have that. Writing a simple PHP code. Okay, now we have a function, or this method function for include. Dear students, we have many. We have require, we have include, we have also include once, and then we have require once. The difference here, if you are working on mega projects and then you want to save your memory, you don't want always, be running at the back. You use include once. Include once helps you to always work at that particular moment whenever it is needed. With the use of include, it whenever you run that page, regardless whether you have already submitted or clicked on anything, for it to collect all that information onto that page, which is consumes a lot of memory and wastage. So you can use include once. They both work the same way. So now I'm going to use include once, or you can use require once. Require once minimizes the memory. So here literally you come and include our form. Now I'm including my configuration file. I'm including my config file so that that file works. Here my config.php. So that is the file that I have included. Why you see that it is still white? Because we have not put the opening. Then automatically now, if I just save, you're going to see that it has been added here. So I will simply, now all my things are ready for working, and what is remaining, it is for closing. I also write it. It is closing. It is always at the end. Always at the end, because you need to close when you are done with everything. So here you need to have my close db. Remember, I called it close db. Once you save, they're already here, so they are part of whatever you design. Now here you're going to start doing all the necessary requirements. My dear students, here I will need to write a simple if statement, because I have my button for submission. So we need to write my simple if statement. If is set, there is a condition. If it is set, this functionality, if it is set, that means if it is clicked, then in bracket I need to set my $, host, and then in bracket I'm going to put the name of that button. The name of that button, if I go closer to it and I click on it, it is called submit, and that's why I write submit here, in order not to create problems. Then I need to close. So that means if that is already clicked on, then do the following. Now what following are we going to do here? Then we need to declare some few variables that we have there. So I have name, and that name I will need to declare them here. So here inside I'm going to type in the name which was given. I gave it name. So without wasting a lot of time here, I will just duplicate, then I'll end up putting the right. So here we have our, I'm going to call it address. Yes, I'm still continuing. We continue now. After doing all the declarations, immediately now we are going to write a simple SQL statement by having a simple declaration here. I will just create a variable called query, and then within that variable I just want to simply write my SQL statement for insert into. Now you remember that we created one table called registration, so we are inserting into that registration. So what are you inserting there? Then these values that you're writing here are the one that you wrote in that table. So I wrote name, I wrote address, and then we wrote city, we wrote telephone, then we also had gender. So once you are done with that, you need to specify which values. Then which values are we entering here? Then these are the values that I have just simply declared. So these values, you put them in quotes. You must put them in quotes. Okay. So comma here, and then I will put gender. So once you are done with that SQL statement, we are going to write a simple function for taking the data into the database, and that function is called MySQL query. Okay, that MySQL query, it is as simple as with MySQL extends or MySQL I, you need to call two arguments. One of the arguments that you need to call here, it is the connection, because you already have the connect there, comma, and then you call what you have already declared here, and that is our insert query. So once we are done with that, we can simply start entering our data into our database. Or if you feel that it may return some errors, you can simply write this function for if errors can happen, error accessing the DB. So you save your work. Now we want to simply try to run it, and then we see if our form can operate. So we go back to our form, we can rerun the form here to see whether everything is in operation. Say I'm going to put the names. So whatever you prefer, it's Kampala, you can put the telephone number, then is a mail, and then click submit. Okay, so now we want to try and find out if whatever we have executed, it is there. So we can see that the data has been captured in our database. We have not added anything like putting different validations. Okay, I want to put different people here. And then so that we confirm whether whatever we have been doing has been captured. So now simply that's the way we have our data in our database. Thank you very much for viewing. I hope you have understood our simple code that we have just wrote to enter data into our database was simply like that. So if you follow that criteria, you'll have your application form complete. We have not added any validation whether to check if it was entered successfully. That is going to be seen in our next sessions. Thank you very much. Have a blessed time when you are viewing, and please try it out in your free time.